Hello and welcome back to On the Daily with Haley. This is your host, Haley Johnsen, and I am super excited for what we have in store today. On today's podcast, we will be talking about all things growing up. Of course, since I don't have kids and I'm also only 19 years old, I'm no expert on this topic, but luckily I know someone that is. We have brought in special guest, Dr. Expert, to guide us through today's conversation. Thank you so much, Haley. I am so excited to be here. We are so excited to have you. Let's start with a little introduction. Tell us about yourself, tell us about your background, all of the things. Of course, so I'm an expert on all things child development. I attended UNC Chapel Hill for my undergrad and majored in human development and family science, and then I got my MSW, also from Chapel Hill, so go Heels. Alright, for today's episode, we are going to play a game called Mystery Box. What's going to happen is I am going to draw a piece of paper from this box, which is filled with papers that have different scenarios that were sent in by our listeners of common challenges they are facing with their children right now. And then Dr. Expert is going to dissect what is going on in these scenarios and how to address the child's behavior. I can't wait. Let's get started. Okay, first prompt. This parent says, I'm currently going through the process of trying to potty train my 3-year-old daughter. Okay. That sounds super fun. In the beginning, I gave her a piece of candy every time she went to the bathroom on the toilet because I wanted to reiterate that was the expectation. Totally fair. Now, though, I'm trying to wean her off the candy and get her to go to the bathroom without the reward. But she throws a fit if she doesn't get a piece of candy after going to the bathroom on the toilet. Okay. Why is this happening, and how do I help her understand that you don't get candy every time you go to the bathroom?
Help me!
Wow, this is a loaded question. I certainly wish I got candy for sitting on the toilet. Right. Really though, what this goes back to, and some might be surprised to hear this, is operant conditioning. Specifically positive reinforcement. If you've ever taken an intro-level psychology class, I'm sure you've learned about this. But basically, your daughter has made an association between toilet training and candy, and has started to expect candy when she successfully goes to the bathroom. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So what can we do here? So the best approach to this situation is to slowly transition out of this pattern to help her break the rule that she has established in her head. Start by shifting the reward from candy to enthusiastic praise. Maybe saying, I'm so proud of you, can I give you a big hug? You can also try other physical objects like stickers or stamps just to have a change from that candy pattern and help her understand that candy is not the singular reward that you get for good potty training. Moving forward, would you advise caregivers who haven't yet reached the toilet training phase to avoid this type of reward system? So not necessarily, but I think it's important to understand how reinforcement works. In this situation, if you react positively to your child successfully going to the bathroom on the toilet, or really just doing any behavior that you're trying to get them to do, they are more likely to repeat that behavior again to get that same positive reaction out of you. We'll say studies have shown that positive reinforcement is an integral force in potty training. Children really react well to that praise or gain of a reward. That answer was more than insightful, Dr. Expert. Thank you so much. For my listeners, we are going to have a short commercial break and then pick right back up with another question for Dr. Expert from our mystery box.
There's dirt on my hands. I'm gonna wash them. There's dirt on my hands. I think I should wash them.
Welcome back from that quick break. Let's get right into our next question with our mystery box. I'm ready. All right, drum roll please. Our next scenario, it says, I am the dad of a 6-year-old son whose mom and I recently divorced. He spends most of his time at my house because of certain circumstances, but he has to spend the weekends twice a month with his mom at his mom's house. Okay. I've noticed whenever he comes back from those weekends with his mom, he isn't as engaging with me. Things like giving me hugs, responding when I talk to him, and saying please and thank you. What's going on here, and how can I help my son work through this? This is a very loaded question. Lots of things to unpack. Sounds like the mom might not be that great of an influence on the son. Right, so the key word there is influence, because as we all know, children are incredibly impressionable. They want to copy what they see around them, and they learn habits by watching the behavior of people around them, particularly the adults around them. This actually goes back to a theory by Albert Bandura called the social learning theory. Wow, so what you're telling me is children are kind of intense observers. Kind of, yes. Studies have shown that they definitely pick up the behaviors of those around them. For example, in the commercial we just watched, the child washed their hands when they were dirty because they saw their parent washing their hands when their hands were dirty. So there definitely is a link between the behavior that people, specifically adults, display around children and the behavior that children therefore display in response. So in this specific example, what advice can you give to this dad in navigating what is certainly not an easy situation? Try and have a conversation with your son, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Say, I notice when you come home from mom's, you act this way, which is not the way you normally act with me. Do you notice this too? And then depending on his response, go from there. Another thing we can do in this situation is make the transition between houses maybe a little bit smoother. So let's say every time he comes back from his mom's, you guys do the same exact routine. One more follow-up question. Would you say this type of situation is common in shared custody families? 100%, yes. This is something we see a lot, and it can be extremely difficult to navigate, especially for recently divorced or separated parents. It's easy to feel like you no longer know your child, or that your child is growing in ways that you can't control. The best practice here is just focusing on the things that you can control. That totally makes sense, and I feel like you gave some really great advice there. Dr. Expert, thank you so much for being here today. It means a lot to me and my listeners, and we are just so incredibly grateful to have you in the studio. Thank you for having me. Any opportunity to share about my work and my expertise is a good opportunity for me, and I really enjoyed my time here with you today. Thank you, Haley. Thank you for listening to On the Daily with Haley. It's always a joy to have you.